we should be out shortly. Okay, at this time, comments concerning items listed for board action in section E. Request to speak, you must have filled out a card prior to the meeting, which you did. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per speaker, and we have a 20-minute total time frame for this event. So, E.02, approval of second interview, and the speaker is Lynn Larson.
As I and others have come before you in the past, we have asked one question, and that is, what is it that is causing Dr. Williams to be eliminated and replaced? And so in relationship to your second interview, I have 2 questions for the board tonight. What is it that has separated these 2 candidates from the other 2? What are the qualities that separate these 2 candidates from the ones who were not being considered? I would like a response, please, because it says right in your speaking form that the questions of fact shall be answered immediately by the President. So I'm asking the board and or the President, what are the items that separate the 2 candidates you're considering from the 2 you are not?
We don't ever make public comment. We allow you to comment, but we won't, we can't elaborate or answer your questions. We can direct for an answer.
So you're telling me that as a public member, and I'm asking you, what are the qualities that separate these 2 from these 2, that you cannot answer that?
Because right now it's still a personnel issue, and we can't discuss it. I mean, I would hope that everyone came to the public forum and had an opportunity to meet and talk and hear the answers of the candidates, but
no, some of us have jobs that keep us from doing that, and some of us, you know, are not moving boxes and those kind of things into houses. So I guess my second question is null and void either also, because my second question was going to be, what are the qualities that the 2 people you're selecting to choose from have that Dr. Williams does not? And I suppose that'll be answered once we see the selection and see the qualities and compare them side by side.
Thank you. Charles, for now.
I'll yield my time to next speaker on Harris.
Next speaker, Maybe Lopez.
Buenas tardes, Presidente Zamora, miembros de la mesa directiva.
Good evening, President Zamora and board members.
Quiero tomar esta oportunidad para presentarles estas cartas de parte de los padres de estudiantes y votantes del Distrito Escolar Alhambra.
I want to take this opportunity to give you these letters from the parents of the students and voters of the Alhambra School District.
Estas cartas representan la voz de la comunidad. La comunidad les pide a ustedes escojan al Dr. Michael Robert como próximo superintendente de Alhambra.
These letters represent the voice of the community. The community is asking you to choose Dr. Michael Robert as the next superintendent of the Alhambra School District.
En este momento se las entrego. Gracias.
Thank you.
At this moment, I will give you the letters. Thank you.
Next up, we have Silverio Garcia.
Mr. Board President, I have to speak on FO2. Is that correct?
Okay, I'm sorry. We'll get to you next. Okay, so at this time, we'll move forward. Approval of the consent agenda. The board approved items E.01A, approval of vouchers, E.01B, approval of personnel matters, and E.01C, garnishment of wages, resolution as consent agenda items. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second that motion.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Ayes carried. Okay, we will now move on to approval of second interview. The board approved a second interview on the date to be decided for 2 candidates for the position of district superintendent. At this time, I believe...
Mr. Highland from ASB, would you please come up and explain the process for this, please?
I'd be happy to, thank you. And I'd like to remind you that the ASB believes that this is one of the most important responsibilities the governing board has, and really thank you for your diligence in this effort. There are a number of ways that you can approach this with a second interview. You know quite well that the first interview was pretty standard. The board met with each candidate, had conversation, had prescribed questions. The candidates had an opportunity to respond. You had an opportunity to ask follow-up questions related to that. You also had a candidate forum. This agenda item allows you to narrow the focus down to 2 of those candidates. With that in mind, a second interview usually takes a little bit of a different direction. Different in the sense that you've already sat with those candidates, you've already asked those questions. My suggestion would be that the consideration for the interview process be that they're presented with scenarios, possibly as many as 2, where they're given time to stand behind this podium, address you at a board in your seats related to important issues that could occur in this district, or really any district. And then you weigh their responses, and you have an opportunity to talk to them at that time and ask them questions as you would with a board. So if they respond to the scenario in a fashion where you'd like to ask a particular question to give a more definitive answer, or ask why what they are addressing is important in a particular scenario, then you would have that opportunity. So it would be a situation where you're acting just like a board superintendent, or the candidate would be acting just like a superintendent. You'd be able to weigh how they approach the scenario and how they answer your questions. At that point, you'd have an opportunity for follow-up questions throughout the scenarios that would be presented, and then again you'd have an opportunity either that date or a later date to be able to meet in executive session, and that scenarios would be presented in executive session. But in executive session without the candidates, they have further conversation related to who you feel best represents or would represent the district. I note that date to be determined is on there. I would suggest that to present those scenarios, to write them initially on my part, to present them and give adequate time to those candidates that you might choose to be prepared would not be a quick turnaround. So I suggest if you look at possibly the 26th, which is a week from Tuesday, that would give them adequate time to prepare. Mr. President.
Thank you so much. So at this time, based on that information, is there a motion?
I move that the board approve a second interview for May 26th. Is that the date that we are looking at? To be for 2 candidates, and those candidates are Michael Robert and Mark Yslas for the position of district superintendent.
I second that motion.
At this time, roll call.
Aye.
Mrs. Alvarado?
Aye.
Mr. Lopez-Bach? Mr. Zamora?
Abstain.
Motion passes 3 ayes, 1 abstention.
Okay. We'll move forward now with approval of second reading and adoption of policy. The board approved the second reading and adoption of policy GCCA, professional staff sick leave, and policy GDCA, support staff sick leave. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes carried. Approval of proposed fiscal year 2016 ASBA political agenda. The board approved the issues to be submitted to the Arizona School Board Association for their fiscal year 2016 political agenda. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes carried. At this time, comments from the governing board. Is there any comments from the governing board this evening? Yes, Mr. Wall.
As we proceed in this process, I just want it known that speaking as myself, I'll do everything I can, and I'm sure the board will do as well, to uphold the integrity of the interview process moving forward. This is just another process, an ability for us to meet with the candidates. We're not making a further decision on this. This is for us to put them through the ringer, in a sense, to learn more about them and see where we can go with it. I've never applied for a job where I didn't have 2 interviews, from the lowest job I've ever been into to the job I'm in today. So I think it's important that we do it again, see them again, learn more about them, so we can continue on with one of them or go back out and find somebody else if we have to. I do want to thank the community who was there at the forum this week. I think it was very important. We had an interesting time learning about the candidates, seeing how they interacted with the community as a whole. But also thank you guys for all your comments, questions, things like that were put in on the cards. Those really came in handy in the deliberation process. I want to make a comment too that's kind of switching gears, but I think as people in education, we were all affected by it. The suicide of the young man over at Corona earlier in the week. For those of you who have worked with students for a long time, for some of our retirees and those of you who don't even work in schools, it's so important that we recognize the signs of depression within kids. We recognize the sadness that might be laying within them. Depression is not something that you want to have, and a lot of times people will tell you what's wrong with you. They'll tell you to get over it. That's not something that's easy to do. And as somebody who has suffered from depression for many years, as somebody who's contemplated suicide in the past, his death really hit me hard as I used to work with students of that age. I think it's so important what you guys do, and I just remind you, take that time, and I don't think I have to remind you because you already do it, but take that time to pat the kid on the back, say a nice thing to them, see where it can go from there, and just make everybody feel like they're a part of it and that they're appreciated. Because sometimes, even though we have people around us who tell us that they love us, it's still hard to remember that we do have those people around us. So I know that's off subject. I just wanted to say that as it was in the education. Thank you.
No, that is important. Any other comments? So, we'll move on to comments from the public. A request to speak must have been initiated by filling in a card. And we do have 4 for public comment. These are going to be related to 3 minutes per speaker with a total of 20 minutes total, so we wouldn't get to that. So anyway, let's go to public comments. Ms. Charmaine Fort, Reverend Charmaine Fort.
To President Zamora and to the board, I want to just start out by saying thank you to Mari Alvarado for her unintentional transparency. Just as we suspected all along, it was confirmed last Thursday by the governing board member, Mari Alvarado, during the governing board comments, and I quote, "We have been planning this since before Christmas," in reference to the superintendent search. This confirms that a conspiracy to relieve Dr. Williams of her duties was in the works well before it ever became public. So we, as a concerned community members and parents, ask you, are you in violation of open meeting laws? Your words and actions speak loud and clear that you are. At the last board meeting, you also went on and on about how the board members don't get paid to serve. Well, you may not get paid in the way you're trying to say you don't get paid, but a person that flips from A to Z is getting something. You're getting something out of it. So to sit here and act like you're not getting anything, you're getting something. Dinners, you're getting trips, you're getting kickbacks from the community, you're getting, no one wants to speak about that, but I will. I know that that's what you're getting. So when you stand here or you sit here and you tell these people you aren't getting anything, you're getting something. Because you don't flip like you flipped for no reason at all. Mr. Zamora, you continue to sit on this board and bring negativity to this district instead of doing what is right for children. You have publicly brought embarrassment and shame to this once highly acclaimed district with your lies and deceit. In addition, your words and actions definitely lead us to believe that you are the leader and orchestrator of this conspiracy. Mr. Martinez, it is common knowledge that you have stated that your intentions are to only serve one term on the governing board. It is also known that you were in a public Mexican restaurant shortly after you were sworn in as a board member, announcing to patrons that you were going to get rid of Dr. Williams and Michael Rivera. Finally, on my way to my seat, this board is failure. That's what it is. One word, failure. Failure to respect and respond to the request of transparency. Failure to adhere to Alhambra core values and initiate an unnecessary superintendent search. Failure to follow non-discriminatory federal laws. Failure to provide substantial time for public comments. Failure to provide legitimate rationale to support the decision to not renew the superintendent's contract. Failure to make decisions that reflect the best interest of the children. I'm on my way to my seat. I'm done.
Mr. Donald Harris. Mr. Donald Harris.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I'm here on behalf of Dr. Williams to speak as to why she was being terminated, why she apparently is terminated now, and why in January she was offered a one-year contract if in fact discussions were being undertaken in December to replace her. Once again, that would be a violation of the law if in fact you did that, and it was not done in accordance of the open meeting laws. You have a superintendent here, and I've had her for about 6 years, as well as being a member of this district and staff as a teacher for about 19 years. Last week I sat in the audience and I received a wonderful glow of all of you members on the board talking about how the Alhambra School District was one of the finest in the state of Arizona, and how well the school district was doing, and how well the school district was going to manage even with the budget cuts, and what the school district has managed in the last few years, even with the budget cuts. Well, where do you think the leadership came from those 6 years? Right. Those 6 years, the leadership was from Dr. Karen Williams. Nobody else. She was here running this district, along with the help of her teachers and assistants, and now you go to cut her legs out from under her after you offered her contract in January, I believe, about the 12th of 2015, and now you seem to want to negate it. You have negated it, and you've gone on a search to bring in people who I understand through my background checks may not have the educational qualities that Dr. Williams does. And you may lower the standards to bring in somebody who does not have the qualities that Dr. Williams does. What are you people doing?
Right.
It seems that we now have the situation where the inmates are running the asylum. And that is what's going on.
So very Garcia.
Good evening, Alhambra School Workers President. My name is Silverio Garcia, and I live at 3816 North 83rd Avenue, apartment 1041 here in Phoenix. During the daytime, I am the office manager to the Dreamers of Arizona, the Arizona Dream Act Coalition. I am here tonight not representing the Dreamers, but I would like you to know that that is my history. I have been defending Dreamers. I've been defending the undocumented immigrant community since '97, when I filed my first case in Buckeye Elementary, 97-98 school year. I am here representing myself, and the comments I make are myself and my business. I have just filed the ACC. It's called Justice for All, and I'm going to bring it to Alhambra School District. I would like to thank you, Mr. President. You're under a lot of stress. I have a problem when I hear a press conference and we have issues, per se, in this board meeting here, but those issues don't stay here. They have gone home and affected your personal family. And I think that's off limits. I don't care what position you hold in public life. When it goes home and affects your kids or your wife, I think somebody's crossed the line. We can crucify you here as a public servant, but let's not take it to your personal home where it's affecting your wife or your personal life. I personally do not want my name associated to anything like that. Another thing is, it appears there's a group here on campus. First of all, the group that's here wasn't allowed in the Murphy School District. I challenged that. I said, that can't be. I stood up in Murphy School District and I said, why isn't Stanford Children allowed to be here? I now am starting to understand why. We have a federal case going into Murphy next week. We're bringing the feds. We're going to do civil rights. And we're going to discuss what happened in Murphy. And it is tied to Alhambra because of the Stanford Children. I have a problem with Stanford Children. I almost got hired by Stanford Children. I put in for that job because the description sounded very, very good. We're going to do grassroots efforts. But then when I look at the leadership of Stanford Children right now, you go on the internet and read it. We have an executive director that's a byproduct of Jan Brewer. To me, where I come from, I've been in the streets since '06 in the immigrations and civil rights. When you say Jan Brewer to me, my ears go shut, my eyes go closed, and I don't want nothing to do with that disease. That is the Latino community, that is the undocumented immigrant community that has been under fire because of Jan Brewer and the likes of Jan Brewer. How can we have something in the immigrant community here, the Hispanic, Latino, undocumented immigrant community, how can they be listening to anybody who's tied to Jan Brewer or was tied to Jan Brewer? And how can we bring a Latino in here who says he's going to do grassroots? And what did he do? He helped Governor Ducey and the Republicans get into office. How do we do grassroots with the Latino community when we're talking about Republicans that hate us? How's that going to happen? I have a question for the leadership of Stanford Children. I would like the national board to answer. How are you going to accomplish that? I'm going to finish by saying Dolores Huerta said it all in 2006 in the Tucson High School. They said that the Republicans hate Latinos. I think there's examples here of based on who's here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Lisa Elliott.
Good evening, President Zamora and members of the board. My name is Lisa Elliott, and I stand before you today as an 18-year veteran in the Alhambra School District, the only district I've ever worked in. Almost 9 months ago, I was asked to resign my position by Mr. Michael Rivera due to low test scores on Ames for the 2013-2014 school year. Please keep in mind that my state ranking was highly effective. My real evaluations were exemplary. I had received a glowing letter from Dr. Williams in March stating the growth of my students at Galileo test results far exceeded expectations. And I'm a national board certified teacher. I respectfully declined the resignation offered to me on that horrendous day because I was not going to crumble to bullying or intimidation tactics, because this is my home and these are the kids I teach, both which are worth standing strongly for, because I know the parents and students I serve realize children are more than a test score. Unfortunately, Alhambra lost some of its shining stars as a result of this erroneous action. This district is struggling because stakeholders have lost trust in each other. We must work together, certified, classified, students, and parents, everyone, regardless of our titles or job descriptions. We all matter, as one of our superintendent candidates stated on Monday night. Mr. Mark Yslas understands the importance of working together to give our students the best education possible without the disruptions caused by one or two students that affect the outcome of others' success. I welcome the opportunity to share my commitment to the children and families of this great district with a leader who believes the work in the classroom has to be sacred. Only then can healing begin and student achievement rise again to bring Alhambra back to its former glory. Thank you.
Thank you. A special study session of the Governing Board will be held Thursday, June 4th at 2015. And a regular meeting of the Governing Board will be held Monday, June 15th. A public hearing budget adoption meeting of the Governing Board will be held Tuesday, June 23rd. All meetings will be held here at 6:30 p.m. or special times posted. At this time, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We stand adjourned.